The shuttle door opened with a soft hiss, and Ambassador Jack Morrison stepped onto the docking platform of the Galactic Council station. The metal floor beneath his feet hummed with alien energy, and the air smelled like copper and ozone. Jack had practiced this moment 1,000 times back on Earth, but nothing could have prepared him for the real thing. The station was impossible. That was the only word Jack could think of. It was bigger than Earth's moon, spinning slowly in the darkness between 3 purple stars. The walls seemed to be made of liquid metal that moved and shifted like water, but when Jack touched them, they were solid and warm. Above his head, the ceiling showed the stars outside, but not through windows. It was like the ceiling wasn't there at all, just empty space held back by invisible force. Jack straightened his blue uniform, the one that all of Earth had voted on. It was simple, with gold trim that represented peace and the small flag of United Earth on his shoulder. He carried a silver case in his left hand, full of gifts from humanity. His right hand was free, ready to offer in friendship to whoever would take it. Behind him, still in the shuttle, Lisa Grant watched through hidden cameras sewn into Jack's uniform. She looked like a simple assistant, a pretty woman in her 30s, with brown hair tied back in a neat bun. But Lisa was much more than that. She was Colonel Lisa Grant, trained in 17 forms of combat and fluent in 6 Earth languages. She was also operating communication equipment that officially didn't exist, quantum transmitters that could send messages to Earth instantly, no matter the distance. "Remember, Jack," Lisa said through his earpiece, "you're walking for all of us. Every step you take is humanity's first step into the larger universe." Jack wanted to laugh. No pressure at all. He was just representing 8 billion people who were counting on him to make friends with aliens who could destroy Earth with technology humans couldn't even understand yet. Easy. The corridor ahead curved upward in a way that should have been impossible to walk on, but somehow Jack's feet stuck to the floor. Gravity here did what the aliens told it to do. After 5 minutes of walking through empty hallways that whispered in languages he couldn't understand, Jack reached the council chamber. The doors were alive. That was the only way to describe it. They looked like they were made of dark wood, but the grain moved and swirled like it was breathing. When Jack approached, they sensed him and opened inward without a sound. The council chamber was the size of a sports stadium. 12 platforms floated in a perfect circle, each one holding representatives from a different species. In the center was a smaller platform with a single spotlight shining down on it. That was where Jack would stand. Jack walked forward, trying not to stare at the aliens. He had seen pictures, of course. Earth's telescopes and the first contact. Messages had shown him what to expect. But seeing them in person was different. The Zalari delegate looked like a chandelier made of living diamonds. Every movement created music, soft notes that seemed to echo in Jack's bones. The creature had no face that Jack could see, just shifting patterns of light within the crystal. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. The Crix Collective representative was worse. It looked like someone had combined a praying mantis with a spider and made it the size of an elephant. It had hundreds of eyes, all of them focused on Jack. Its mouth parts clicked and chattered constantly, like it was tasting the air around him. The luminary floated in a special container filled with some kind of gas. The being itself was just light, but not regular light. It was light that seemed angry, swirling and pulsing in patterns that hurt to look at directly. Sometimes it looked almost human-shaped, other times like a storm of color. But the one that worried Jack most was Vortok, the council chairman. He was from the Draconid Empire, and he looked exactly like what humans would call a dragon. 15 feet tall, covered in scales that shifted from green to purple to red, with claws that could tear through steel and eyes that glowed with golden fire. He sat on the highest platform looking down at everyone else. Jack reached the center platform and set down his case. He looked up at the 12 alien races that controlled this part of the galaxy. Together they commanded fleets of thousands of ships, controlled technology that could move planets, and had been traveling between stars for longer than humans had existed. Honored representatives of the Galactic Council, Jack began, his voice steady despite his racing heart. I am Ambassador Jack Morrison of Earth, speaking for all humanity. We come to you in peace, seeking friendship and mutual understanding. Several of the aliens made noises. Jack couldn't tell if they were laughing, or discussing, or just breathing. The translator in his ear was trying to keep up, but it could only handle one language at a time, and 12 species were all reacting at once. Vortok raised one claw, and the chamber became silent instantly. When he spoke, his voice was like thunder rolling across mountains. Ambassador Morrison, the Council has been watching your species for some time. You have achieved faster-than-light travel remarkably quickly for such a young race. Thank you, Chairman Vortok, Jack replied. Humanity has always been curious about the universe. We're explorers and dreamers. When we detected your first contact signal 3 years ago, our entire planet united for the first time in history. We put aside our differences to reach for the stars. That was mostly true. There had been some arguments, a few small wars that had to be stopped, and at least one country that claimed the aliens were fake. But eventually, everyone agreed that meeting aliens was more important than fighting each other. You speak of unity, said the Zalari, its voice like wind chimes in Jack's ear. Yet your historical records show constant warfare. Even now you have weapons that could destroy your own planet several times over. Jack had expected this. That's true. Humans have made mistakes. We've fought wars and built terrible weapons. But we've also created art and music, philosophy and science. We've learned from our errors. The weapons you mention haven't been used in almost 100 years. We keep them only for defense. The Krix representatives' hundreds of eyes all blinked at once, which was deeply unsettling. Defense against whom? You have no enemies in space, unless you plan to make enemies here. No, Jack said firmly. We want to be partners, not enemies. That's why I've brought gifts. He opened his case, pulling out items one by one. This is Mozart's Symphony No. 40, encoded in mathematical patterns that any species can understand. This is a painting by a human child, showing what she thinks aliens might look like. She was actually pretty close with the Luminari. This is our genetic code, offered freely, in case your scientists want to study us. And this is a piece of the Berlin Wall, a barrier that once divided humans but was torn down when we chose unity over separation. The council members were quiet. Jack couldn't read alien faces, but he thought some of them might be interested. The Zalari's crystals had shifted to a lighter color, and even the Krix had stopped clicking its mouthparts. But Vortok's scales were darkening, shifting from purple to deep red. Jack had studied what that meant. Red was anger, or decision, or judgment. None of those were good. You say you've learned from your mistakes, Vortok said slowly, but your first action upon achieving spaceflight was to send out signals in all directions, announcing your presence. Only a predator or a fool does that. Or someone looking for friends, Jack countered. Friends. Vortok seemed to taste the word. Your species went from first flight to nuclear weapons in less than 50 years. From nuclear weapons to spaceflight in another 50. From spaceflight to faster-than-light travel in mere decades. Such rapid advancement is unusual. Jack could hear something in the alien's voice. It wasn't just suspicion, it was fear. We're fast learners, Jack said carefully. But that doesn't make us dangerous. It makes us adaptable. We could contribute so much to the galactic community. Our creativity, our determination, our different perspective could help everyone. The council members began talking among themselves in their own languages. Jack's translator gave up trying to keep track. But he could see the body language even in aliens, the way the Zalari's light flickered, the way the Krix pulled its limbs closer to its body, the way the Luminari's light became more agitated. They were afraid of humanity. They were afraid of how quickly humans learned and grew. They were afraid of what humanity might become in another 100 years or 1,000. Back in the shuttle, Lisa Grant was seeing the same thing. She quickly typed a message to Earth. Council is hostile. Recommend activation of contingency protocols. The message traveled through quantum space, reaching Earth in less than a second. On Earth, in a bunker 5 miles below the surface, Admiral Paul Carter read the message. He turned to his team. Prepare Project Whisper for immediate deployment, but do not activate unless we receive the termination signal. Dr. Amy Wong looked up from her computers. The nanobots are ready, Admiral. 3 years of preparation are about to pay off. Back on the station, Jack didn't know about these preparations. He stood alone in the center of the chamber, surrounded by beings who could kill him with a thought, still hoping that peace was possible. Dr. Amy Wong sat in Earth's Strategic Command Center, 5 miles beneath the Rocky Mountains. Her fingers moved across holographic displays that showed the entire galaxy in real time. 10,000 green dots appeared, spreading across council space like seeds on the wind. Each dot was a Project Whisper satellite, and each one was now active. All packages have confirmed activation, Amy reported to Admiral Paul Carter. The nanobots are deploying. First contact with alien technology in approximately 10 minutes. The Admiral nodded, his face grim. How long until full infiltration? 3 hours for complete system penetration. 6 hours for total control. Amy pulled up another display. The Council has no idea what's coming. Their technology is advanced, but they've been using the same basic systems for thousands of years. They've never faced anything like our nanobots. President Kyle Roberts stood at the center of the room watching the main screen. It showed Jack Morrison's body still lying on the council chamber floor. The aliens had just left it there like garbage. The president's hands were clenched into fists, but his voice was calm. Tell me about Project Whisper, Doctor. I want to understand exactly what we're about to do. Amy stood up, her white lab coat swishing as she moved to the main display. 3 years ago, when we received first contact, we knew this might happen. Humans have a saying, hope for the best, prepare for the worst. So while our diplomats prepared for peace, our scientists prepared for war. She touched the display, zooming in on one of the green dots. Each satellite is smaller than your thumb. They attach themselves to asteroids, space debris, even alien ships during our exploration missions. The aliens never noticed because the satellites were designed to look like natural space dust. And the nanobots? The president asked. My life's work, Amy said with pride and sadness mixed together. Robots so small you need an electron microscope to see them. They can take apart any material at the molecular level and rebuild it, however we want. They learn and adapt faster than any computer virus, and they're programmed with one core directive: protect humanity. Admiral Carter stepped forward. The beauty is that they're not weapons in the traditional sense. They don't destroy, they simply take control. Every computer, every network, every piece of technology the Council has will soon belong to us. On the screen, the green dots began turning yellow, indicating first contact with alien technology. Amy watched the data flow across her displays. First infiltration successful, she announced. The nanobots have breached the outer networks of Council trading stations. They're learning the programming languages, mapping the system architecture. It's like watching a child learn to read, except this child learns 1,000,000 words per second. Lisa. Grant's voice came through the communication system. She was still in the shuttle near the Council station, maintaining her cover as a simple assistant. The Council members are leaving the station. They're returning to their homeworlds to prepare their fleets. They have no idea anything is wrong. Good, the president said. Let them go home. Let them think they've won. 30 minutes passed. The yellow dots turned orange, indicating deeper penetration. Amy's displays showed the nanobots spreading through Council space like veins through a body. They were in everything now. Military systems, civilian networks, power grids, communication arrays. This is incredible, Amy whispered, reading the data. The Council's technology is far more advanced than ours, but it's also more interconnected. Everything talks to everything else. The nanobots are using that against them, spreading faster than we predicted. Captain Ben Taylor's voice joined the communication channel. He commanded the UES Aurora, a ship the Council thought was just a cargo vessel. Admiral, we're detecting confusion in Council fleet movements. Their navigation systems are starting to glitch. They don't understand what's happening. Maintain your cover, Captain, Admiral Carter ordered. Continue your merchant route as planned. We don't want them suspicious of human vessels yet. An hour passed. Half the dots were now red, indicating full control. Amy pulled up specific data streams from different council worlds. The Crix Collective's hive mind network is fascinating, she said, her scientist curiosity showing through. It's like one giant brain shared by billions of beings. The nanobots are having a field day in there. They're not harming the collective, just adding some new thoughts to the mix. What kind of thoughts? The president asked. Human memories. Every human memory we could digitize. Births, deaths, first loves, last goodbyes, children laughing, old people crying. The collective has never experienced individual emotions before. They're about to get a crash course in what it means to be human. Another display showed the Zalari homeworld. The crystal beings communicate through harmonic frequencies. The nanobots are mapping every frequency, learning their entire language in real time. When we're ready, we can make every device on their planet sing whatever song we choose. And the Draconid Empire? The president asked. Fortok's people? Amy's smile was cold. They're the most militaristic species in the council. 90% of their technology is weapons or military systems. The nanobots are taking special care with them. Every gun, every ship, every orbital defense platform. We'll own them all. 2 hours in, something unexpected happened. Amy frowned at her displays. That's interesting. I'm detecting resistance from one source, the Zalari. Their crystalline structure is partially organic, partially energy. The nanobots are having trouble fully integrating with their systems. Is it a problem? Admiral Carter asked. No, just slower. We'll have them in another hour. But it's good to know the nanobots can adapt to unexpected challenges. The president walked to the memorial wall, where photos of every astronaut who had ever died for space exploration hung in rows. Jack Morrison's photo had just been added, his smiling face looking out at the room. Jack believed in peace, the president said quietly. He died believing in it. Make sure our response honors that. I want the council defeated but not destroyed. I want them to understand what they've done, and I want them to know we could destroy them but choose not to. Amy nodded. The nanobots are programmed with strict limitations, Mr. President. They will not harm any living being. They will only control technology. The council will be helpless, but they won't be hurt. Unless they try to hurt others, Admiral Carter added. The nanobots have a special protocol for that. Any weapon fired in anger will immediately shut down permanently. 3 hours after activation, every dot on Amy's display was red. Total infiltration achieved. The entire technological infrastructure of 12 alien civilizations now had humanity's nanobots hidden inside waiting for orders. Status report, the president commanded. Amy pulled up a summary display. We have complete control of all council technology, financial systems, defense grids, communication networks, transportation, systems, life support, everything. The council doesn't know it yet, but they're completely at our mercy. The council fleet? Admiral Carter asked. 400 capital ships, 2,000 support vessels, and approximately 50,000 fighter craft, all infiltrated. When we give the signal, they'll all stop working at once. Captain Taylor's voice came through again. Admiral, I'm seeing the first signs of panic. Some of their systems are starting to act strangely. They're trying to run diagnostics, but the nanobots are hiding from their scans. Let them panic, the Admiral said. Fear is part of the lesson. Lisa Grant had been quiet for a while, but now she spoke. The council station is in chaos. They can't understand why some systems are malfunctioning. Fortok has called an emergency meeting. He's actually standing right next to Jack's body, using it as a podium for his display screens. The rage in the room was tangible. Everyone could see the casual disrespect, the complete lack of honor the council showed to humanity's ambassador. How long until they realize what's happening? The president asked. They won't, Amy said confidently. The nanobots are too small, too alien to their understanding. They'll think it's a virus or a system failure or maybe sabotage from each other. They'll never suspect it came from the primitive humans they just condemned to death. The president looked around the room at his advisors, his scientists, his military leaders. All of them were waiting for his order. The power to destroy 12 civilizations rested in his words. "Begin Phase 2, he commanded. "Show them what humanity is capable of. But remember, we're teachers now, not executioners. Jack Morrison died to show them we come in peace. Now we'll show them what happens when they choose war." Amy's fingers danced across her controls. Across the galaxy, 10 trillion nanobots received new instructions. The Council thought they had 3 days to prepare for humanity's extinction. They were about to learn they didn't have 3 minutes. "Message transmitted," Amy announced. "Phase 2 begins now. On every Council world, in every Council ship, in every piece of Council technology." The nanobots began their real work. Not to destroy, but to demonstrate. Not to kill, but to educate. The Council was about to receive the most important lesson in their million-year history: never underestimate humanity. The Council chamber was silent except for the soft hum of restored systems. 12 hours had passed since Jack Morrison's death, and the galaxy had changed forever. The Council members sat in their platforms, but none of them looked as proud as they had before. They looked smaller somehow, defeated without a single shot being fired. Lisa Grant stood in the exact spot where Jack had died. She had been promoted to ambassador in the field, and she wore the same simple blue uniform Jack had worn. The bloodstain was still on the floor beneath her feet. She had insisted they leave it there. "Members of the Galactic Council," Lisa began, her voice steady and clear. 12 hours ago, you murdered Ambassador Jack Morrison. He came to you in peace and you killed him. You planned to do the same to every human alive, man, woman, and child. 8 billion souls condemned because of your fear. Vortok shifted on his platform, his scales still gray with shame. The other Council members couldn't even look at Lisa directly. They had all felt humanity's power, and more importantly, humanity's restraint. "You expected us to respond with violence," Lisa continued. "You expected warships and weapons, death and destruction, because that's what you would have done. But humans, the species you called primitive and dangerous, chose a different path." She pulled out a small device and placed it on the floor. A hologram appeared, but not of Jack this time. It was President Kyle Roberts broadcasting live from Earth. "Members of the Galactic Council," the president said. "I speak to you not as a conqueror, but as a teacher. What you've experienced in the last 12 hours is just a fraction of what humanity could have done. We could have destroyed your worlds, killed your people, ended your civilizations. We had that power the moment you murdered our ambassador." The president paused, letting his words sink in. "But we didn't. Do you know why?" The Council members remained silent, but they were all listening intently. Because Jack Morrison believed in something better. He believed that even those who do terrible things can learn, can change, can become better. He forgave you with his dying breath, and we choose to honor that forgiveness. The hologram flickered, and Amy Wong appeared next to the president. She held up a small device no bigger than a coin. "This is a nanobot controller," Amy explained. "Right now, trillions of our nanobots are still in your systems. They could stay there forever, keeping you helpless. But that's not what Jack would have wanted." Amy pressed a button on the device. Across the galaxy, on every Council world and ship, the nanobots began to leave. They streamed out of computer systems, weapons platforms, and communication networks, forming brief clouds of silver dust before disappearing entirely. "Your systems will be fully restored within the hour," Amy said. "But with one permanent addition. We've left a single protocol in place, one that cannot be removed or overridden. If any species anywhere in this galaxy attempts genocide against another, all their technology will shut down permanently. No second chances, no negotiations. You can wage war if you must, but you can never again attempt to exterminate an entire species." The Council members checked their systems. Everything was indeed returning to normal, except for that one unbreakable rule now embedded in the foundation of all their technology. Lisa spoke again. Jack Morrison prepared a message before he left Earth. He knew there was a chance you might kill him. He wanted you to hear this if that happened. She activated another hologram. Jack Morrison appeared alive and smiling, recorded in his office on Earth just days before his death. If you're watching this, Jack's recording said, then I'm dead, and you're the ones who killed me. I want you to know that I forgive you. I knew the risks when I volunteered for this mission, but I also want you to know that my death changes nothing about humanity's offer of friendship. The hologram Jack walked forward as if he could see them. You feared us because we advance quickly, because we adapt, because we've had wars. But what you didn't see is that we learn from every mistake. Every war taught us the value of peace. Every death taught us the value of life. Every moment of darkness taught us to reach for the light. We could have come to you with warships, instead we came with art and music. We could have hidden our history. Instead we shared it openly, mistakes and all. We could have responded to my death with vengeance, instead we're responding with mercy. The recording paused and Jack smiled sadly. I have a daughter. Her name is Emma. She's 6 years old. When I told her I was going to meet aliens, she asked me to bring them a present. She made this. Jack held up a small drawing. It was a child's picture of Earth and multiple other planets holding hands, with friends written in crayon across the top. This is what humanity offers you. Not submission, not conquest, but friendship. The question is, are you brave enough to accept it? The recording ended. The council chamber was so quiet that everyone could hear the soft crying coming from Vortak's platform. The mighty Draconid warrior, who had lived for 300 years and fought in countless battles, was weeping. I have children, Vortak said, his voice broken. 7 hatchlings. When they were young, they drew pictures too. Pictures of our empire growing, conquering, dominating. I was so proud, but now I see what we've become. We've become everything we accused you of being. He stood up, his massive form casting shadows across the chamber. Slowly, painfully, he walked down from his platform to where Lisa stood. When he reached her, he did something no Draconid had ever done to a member of another species. He knelt. Ambassador Grant, he said, I murdered Jack Morrison. There is no apology sufficient for that crime. But I offer my life to you now. Take your revenge. It is your right. Lisa looked down at the kneeling alien, the being who had killed Jack without hesitation. She could see the plasma blade on his belt, the same one he had used. She could take it, use it, and no one would stop her. It would be justice. Instead, she offered him her hand. Stand up, Chairman Vortak, she said gently. Jack forgave you. Earth forgives you. Now you need to forgive yourself and help us build something better. Vortak looked at her extended hand in amazement. Slowly, carefully, he took it and stood. His clawed hand could have crushed hers easily, but he held it as gently as if it were made of glass. One by one, the other council members left their platforms and approached. The Zalari sang a harmony of sorrow and hope. The Krix, still adjusting to having individual thoughts, each expressed personal regret. The Luminari glowed with a soft, apologetic light. What happens now? The Zalari harmonist asked. Now we start over, Lisa said. Humanity's ships will arrive in 3 days. Not warships, but cargo vessels. They're bringing medical supplies, educational materials, and technological innovations to share. We're also bringing something else. She pulled out one more hologram projector. It showed thousands of humans in a massive hall all signing a document. This is the Forgiveness Accord, Lisa explained. 8 billion humans have already signed it. It states that humanity forgives the Council for Jack Morrison's death and chooses peace over vengeance. When our ships arrive, we hope you'll sign it too. And then? Vortak asked. Then we do what Jack wanted. We explore the galaxy together. We share knowledge. We become friends. We prove that diversity makes us stronger, not weaker. President Roberts spoke one more time through the hologram. The nanobots taught you something important today. Humanity could have been your conquerors. Instead, we choose to be your teachers. We choose to be your partners. We choose to be your friends. The galaxy is vast and full of wonders. Let's discover them together. The transmission ended. Lisa looked around at the 12 species that had tried to destroy humanity. They looked back at her with something new in their alien eyes. Respect. There's one more thing, Lisa said. She walked to where Jack's body still lay and knelt beside it. From her pocket, she pulled out a small flag, the same one Jack had carried. She draped it over him gently. We'll be taking Jack home. He deserves to rest on Earth with his family. Vortok stepped forward. I would like to attend the funeral, to apologize to his family, to his daughter. You'll be welcome, Lisa said. Emma will want to meet the alien her daddy tried to befriend. And maybe, just maybe, she can teach you what Jack knew all along. Which is? Lisa smiled, and for a moment, she looked just like Jack had when he first entered the chamber. That the scariest word in the universe isn't war or death or destruction. It's forgiveness. Because forgiveness requires more courage than any weapon, more strength than any army, and more power than any technology. She looked up at the stars, visible through the chamber's ceiling. Jack Morrison died believing that. Today, humanity proved it. And now, the real work begins. 3 hours had passed since Jack Morrison first entered the council chamber. His legs were getting tired from standing, but he didn't dare ask for a chair. The aliens had been questioning him without stopping, and their questions were becoming more aggressive with each passing minute. Tell us about your military forces, the Crick's representative clicked, its hundreds of eyes never blinking now. How many warships does Earth possess? We have a defense fleet, Jack answered honestly. 12 ships designed to protect our solar system. They've never fired a weapon in anger. We built them because, well, the universe seemed like a big and possibly dangerous place, but we hope to convert them to exploration vessels once we establish peaceful relations with the Council. That was mostly true. Earth did have 12 ships that everyone knew about. The other 50 ships, hidden in the asteroid belt and around Jupiter's moons, were not something Jack was authorized to discuss. Not that he knew about them anyway. Information like that was kept from diplomats for exactly this reason. Vortok's scales had been shifting between red and black for the past hour. Black was the worst color. Jack had learned that black meant a Draconid had made a final decision, one that couldn't be changed. The massive reptilian alien stood up from his platform and the entire chamber seemed to grow colder. Ambassador Morrison, Vortok said, his voice filling the chamber like poisoned honey. We have been discussing your species while you spoke. We have analyzed your history, your psychology, your biological makeup. Do you know what we have concluded? Jack's mouth was dry, but he kept his voice level. I hope you've concluded that humanity has much to offer the galactic community. No. The word was final, like a judge's hammer falling. We have concluded that humanity is a virus. The word hit Jack like a physical blow. Around the chamber, the other council members were nodding or making their species-equivalent gestures of agreement.
Only the Zalari seemed uncertain, its crystalline form flickering between colors. That's not fair, Jack said, anger creeping into his voice for the first time. You can't judge an entire species based on facts, Vortok interrupted.
Let me share some facts with you, human. Your species has existed for roughly 300,000 years. In that time, you have had approximately 15,000 wars. You have driven thousands of other species on your planet to extinction. You poisoned your own air and water. You created weapons that could end all life on Earth, and you almost used them. Multiple times. Jack wanted to argue, but every word was true. He tried anyway. But we stopped. We learned. We're trying to be better. Trying. The luminary's voice was like static electricity in Jack's ears. Your kind spreads across your planet like bacteria in a petri dish. Now you seek to spread across the galaxy. We have seen this before, Ambassador. Species like yours burn bright and fast, consuming everything in their path until there is nothing left. You're wrong, Jack said firmly. Humans have the capacity for great good. We create art, we love, we sacrifice for others, you adapt. The Cricks interrupted. That is what makes you dangerous. Your specific recorded this yourself. In 3 years since first contact, you reverse-engineered our faster-than-light communication technology. Our scientists said that should have taken you centuries. Jack noticed something then. The universal translator in his ear had stopped working. He touched it and it was dead. Not broken, but completely powered down. His communication link to Lisa was also dead. The council had activated some kind of dampening field, but Jack didn't panic. Lisa had prepared for this. The quantum transmitter, hidden in his dental filling, was still working. It was too small and too alien for the council's dampening field to detect. Everything he was seeing and hearing was still being sent to Earth. In the shuttle, Lisa Grant watched her conventional screens go dark. But the quantum receiver, hidden inside what looked like a makeup compact, was still showing Jack's vital signs and transmitting audio. She heard every word as Vortok continued his speech. The Council has been watching Earth for longer than you know, Vortok said. We saw your first nuclear explosion. We watched your wars from space. We observed how quickly you went from hitting each other with rocks to splitting atoms, and we made a decision then, 70 of your years ago. Jack's blood ran cold. What decision? If humanity ever achieved faster-than-light travel, we would end you. Vortok pulled something from his belt. It was a weapon, a blade made of contained plasma that burned blue-white. We cannot allow a virus to spread among the stars. Wait, Jack said, backing up. This is murder. This is genocide. You're talking about killing billions of innocent people. We are talking about preventing trillions of deaths, the Zalari sang, though its tone was sad. We have run the simulations 10,000 times. In every scenario where humanity survives, within 1,000 years you have either conquered or destroyed half the galaxy. Simulations can be wrong, Jack shouted. You can't execute an entire species based on computer predictions. We can, Vortok said simply, and we will. The vote was taken before you arrived, Ambassador. 11 votes for extinction, 1 abstention. He glanced at the Zalari, who dimmed its light in what might have been shame. Your words here were merely to confirm what we already knew. Humanity is too dangerous to exist. Jack's mind raced. He thought about running, but where would he go? He was on an alien station, surrounded by beings with technology he couldn't understand. He thought about fighting, but he was one human against 12 alien species. He thought about begging, but he knew it wouldn't work. He could see it in their alien eyes and lights and crystals. They had already decided humanity's fate. So Jack did the only thing he could do. He stood tall and faced them without fear. If you do this, Jack said, his voice carrying across the chamber, you will be making the greatest mistake in galactic history. Not because humanity will destroy you in revenge, but because you'll be destroying the one species that could have saved you all. Saved us from what? Vortok asked, amused. From yourselves, Jack replied. You talk about our wars, but when was the last time this council welcomed a new member? How long have you 12 been the only powers in this part of the galaxy? You've become stagnant, frozen in your ways. Humanity could have brought new ideas, new perspectives, new hope. But instead, you choose fear. Vortok moved faster than Jack thought possible. One moment the alien was 20 feet away, the next he was directly in front of Jack, the plasma blade humming with deadly energy. Any last words, Ambassador? Vortok asked. They will be recorded for history. Jack looked up at the massive alien without flinching. Yes, I forgive you, and I hope that when humanity proves you wrong, they forgive you too. Vortok's golden eyes widened slightly. That was not what he had expected. For just a moment his scales flickered from black to purple, showing uncertainty. But then they went black again, darker than space itself. Goodbye, Ambassador Morrison. May your gods, if you have them, welcome you home. The plasma blade activated with a sound like tearing silk. Jack had one moment to think about his daughter back on Earth, 6 years old with his eyes and her mother's smile. He thought about how she wanted to be an astronaut like Daddy. He hoped she still would be. The blade came down in a perfect arc. Jack Morrison, Humanity's first ambassador to the stars, died instantly. He felt no pain. One moment he was standing, the next he was gone. His body collapsed to the platform, and the smell of burned flesh filled the chamber. Vortok stood over the body for a moment, then turned to face the other council members. "It is done. Transmit the execution to all council worlds and to Earth. Let them see what happens to threats to galactic peace." The Creek's representative was already working its controls. "Broadcasting now. The signal will reach Earth in approximately 3 days through normal space." What they didn't know was that Earth had already seen everything. The quantum transmitter in Jack's tooth had survived his death and was still transmitting. On Earth, 8 billion people watched their ambassador die in real time. They watched him stand brave against impossible odds. They watched him forgive his killers with his last words. And they watched Vortok laugh. The Draconid leader actually laughed as he kicked Jack's body off the platform. Pathetic. The human didn't even try to fight. Perhaps we overestimated their danger. A species that won't even fight for its own survival hardly seems worth worrying about. "The fleet is ready," another council member announced. "Should we proceed to Earth immediately?" "No," Vortok decided. "Let them receive the transmission first. Let them have 3 days to despair, to know their end is coming. Then we will arrive and cleanse their world. It will serve as a lesson to any other young species that might threaten our order." In the shuttle, Lisa Grant had tears running down her face, but her hands were steady as she typed the final message to Earth. "Ambassador Morrison is dead. Executed by Council Chairman Vortok. Council plans total extinction of humanity in 3 days. Recommend immediate activation of Project Whisper. God help us all." On Earth, Admiral Paul Carter received the message. He looked at President Kyle Roberts, who had watched everything through the quantum feed. The president's face was carved from stone, showing no emotion. "Do it," the president said quietly. Vortok stood on the command deck of his flagship, the Pride of Draconis, watching his fleet prepare for the journey to Earth. 300 Draconid warships floated in perfect formation, their weapons charged and ready to turn humanity's homeworld into glass. He was still cleaning Jack Morrison's blood from his claws when the first sign of trouble appeared. "Commander," his navigation officer said, confusion in his voice. "The jump drive is not responding. I'm entering the coordinates for Earth, but the system keeps rejecting them." "Then fix it," Vortok growled. "We leave in 1 hour." But an hour later, the problem had spread. Every ship in the Draconid fleet was experiencing the same issue. They could fly within their own solar system, but any attempt to enter faster than light, travel simply failed. The engines would start, then immediately shut down. On the Zalari homeworld, something even stranger was happening. The crystal beings communicated through harmonic frequencies, beautiful songs that filled their cities with music. But now, every speaker, every communication device, every sound-producing technology on their planet began playing something else. It was human music, Beethoven's Ninth Symphony to be exact. But it was played at a frequency that caused intense discomfort to the Zalari. Not pain exactly, but like the universe's worst headache. Every Zalari on the planet, all 40 billion of them, clutched their crystalline heads and retreated to the deepest caves they could find, trying to escape the sound. "Make it stop," the Zalari Prime Harmonist begged into what she thought was a communication device. But the device just played the music louder. The Crix Collective was experiencing something far worse. For 1,000,000 years, they had shared one mind across billions of bodies. Every thought was shared, every memory collective, every decision unanimous. It was perfect unity, perfect order. Then the human memories began. First, it was just a trickle. A human child's first day of school, nervous and excited. A strange sensation for beings who were born knowing everything their species knew. Then came more. A wedding day, full of joy and fear and hope. A soldier's last moments, thinking of home. A mother holding her newborn child. A grandfather teaching his granddaughter to fish. Within minutes, the trickle became a flood. Billions of human experiences poured into the collective's shared mind. Love, hate, joy, sorrow, fear, courage, loneliness, friendship. Individual emotions, individual thoughts, individual dreams. The collective had no defense against individuality. Across 3 planets and 17 space stations, every member of the Crix collective fell to the ground, overwhelmed by the sensation of being alone in their own heads for the first time, while simultaneously experiencing every human emotion that had ever existed. The Luminari had a different problem. As beings of pure energy, they required constant power flow to maintain their forms. They had massive generators on their worlds, fusion reactors that had run without interruption for thousands of years. Now those reactors were reversing their flow. Instead of producing energy, they were absorbing it. The Luminari watched in horror as their cities went dark one by one. They weren't dying, but they were being forced into their lowest energy state, barely more than dim glows floating helplessly in the darkness they had banished from their worlds eons ago. "What is happening?" The Luminari High Conductor transmitted desperately, but there was no one to answer. Their communication network was down, their ships were powerless, and for the first time in their species' history they were afraid of the dark. Back on Vortok's flagship, the situation was getting worse. It wasn't just the jump drives now. Weapon systems were shutting down one by one. First the planet-killer bombs, then the plasma cannons, then even the simple projectile weapons. But the strangest part was what replaced them. Every weapon, when it shut down, projected a hologram. It was Jack Morrison, the human Vortok had killed just hours ago. The hologram would appear, smile, extend its hand in friendship, then disappear. Then it would repeat, over and over on every weapon in the Draconid Empire. "Make it stop," Vortok roared, his scales turning black with rage. He tried to smash one of the holograms, but his claw went right through it. His chief scientist approached, carefully. "Commander, we've analyzed the malfunction. It appears to be some kind of virus, but unlike anything we've ever seen. It's in everything, adapting faster than we can counter it." "The humans?" Vortok asked, though he couldn't believe it. How could a species that had just achieved faster-than-light travel create something his scientists couldn't understand? "Unknown, Commander." "But..." The scientist hesitated. "The virus appeared exactly 3 hours after you executed the human ambassador. On every council world, the pattern was the same, but tailored to each species' specific nature. The aquatic Hydrani found their water circulation systems running backward, creating whirlpools in their cities. The silicon-based Gorvans discovered their computer networks would only display images of Earth's beauty. The telepathic Scions found their mental networks filled with Jack Morrison's last words, "I forgive you." But the masterpiece of humanity's revenge was what happened to the Council's financial system. Every credit, every transaction, every economic record of 12 civilizations simply stopped. Bank accounts showed zero. Trade agreements disappeared. The entire galactic economy, built over millions of years, ground to a halt in seconds. Then, a message appeared on every screen, in every language. "Your wealth has been temporarily relocated. To recover it, submit a formal apology for the murder of Ambassador Jack Morrison and a pledge of peaceful relations with humanity. You have 1 hour to comply." The council members tried to meet, but their communication systems would only work for one purpose: transmitting apologies to Earth. Any other use simply failed. Captain Ben Taylor watched from the bridge of the Aurora as council ships drifted helplessly in space around him. His merchant vessel was one of the only ships still functioning normally in this entire sector of space. His crew wanted to gloat, but Ben kept them disciplined. "Remember," he told them, "we're teachers, not conquerors. Let them learn the lesson properly." On the council station, Vortok stood in the same chamber where he had killed Jack. The human's body was still there, now surrounded by hundreds of holographic versions of him, all smiling, all offering friendship. The other council members were trying to reach the chamber, but the station's transportation systems would only move them in circles. "This is impossible," Vortok muttered. "They're primitives. They couldn't have done this." But the evidence was undeniable. Humanity had reached into the heart of the Council's power and turned it off like a light switch. No violence, no destruction, just complete and total helplessness. The Zalari Prime Harmonist from her cave managed to send a message through the chaos. It was simple. We apologize. Immediately, the music on the Zalari homeworld changed. Instead of the uncomfortable symphony, it became a gentle lullaby, soothing and peaceful. The Zalari emerged from their caves, their crystalline forms resonating with the beautiful sound. One by one, other council members began to understand. The Crix Collective, still reeling from experiencing individuality, transmitted their apology. The flood of human memories slowed to a trickle, then stopped, leaving them with just enough individual thought to understand what they had nearly destroyed. The Luminari, sitting in darkness, apologized. Their power began to return, but slowly, teaching them to appreciate what they had taken for granted. But Vortok would not bend. His pride, the same pride that had led him to execute Jack Morrison, would not allow him to apologize to primitives. "Commander," his officer reported, "the other council members have all apologized. Their systems are being restored. Only we remain. I will not apologize to insects." Vortok roared. Every screen in the Draconid Empire suddenly showed the same image: Jack Morrison's 6-year-old daughter, crying as she watched her father die. The image didn't loop or repeat. It just stayed there, on every screen, impossible to turn off or look away from. Vortok stared at the child's tears. He had children of his own, hatchlings he would die to protect. For the first time, he understood what he had really done. He hadn't just killed an ambassador. He had killed a father, a husband, a son. He had killed someone who had forgiven him even as he died. His scales slowly shifted from black to gray, the color of shame among his people. "Send the apology," he whispered. "Commander?" His officer wasn't sure he had heard correctly. "Send the apology," Vortok roared, then quieter. "The humans have won. They've won without firing a shot, without killing anyone. They've shown us what we really are, and what they chose not to become."